If Biden's farewell address was an admission of failure, then Democratic leadership, past and present, should be front and center in the list of culprits. For all their talk about fighting for the middle class, their track records read like a love letter to corporate America. Over the years, Democratic leaders have perfected the art of walking the tightrope, publicly decrying the influence of wealth while privately blowing the donor class. They cry foul about economic inequality and then host fundraisers in the Hamptons. They condemn Wall Street's excess while ensuring regulatory agencies stay toothless. It's an act so well rehearsed, you almost have to admire the audacity. Biden's farewell speech hit on the dangers of unchecked corporate influence, but let's be honest. He's been swimming in those waters for decades. He spoke of powerful forces looking to erode democracy. Yet the real force at work has been in his own party's insatiable thirst for campaign cash. Who's been leading that charge? The top brass. Names that have been fixtures in Washington for years, propped up by the very oligarchs Biden warned about. Take congressional leadership, for example. For years, the Democratic establishment has been personified by figures like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, two political juggernauts whose grip on power is only rivaled by their fundraising prowess. Pelosi, with her decades-long career, amassed a donor list that reads like a who's who of Silicon Valley and Wall Street elites. She talked a big game about progressive values, yet under her leadership, the party failed to deliver even the most basic economic reforms for the working class. Corporate tax rates remain laughably low. Healthcare continued to be a privilege rather than a right. And financial regulations were weakened at every turn. Her infamous defense of trading loopholes for Congress, brushing off stock trading by lawmakers as part of the free market, was a perfect encapsulation of the Democrats' cognitive dissonance when it comes to money and politics. Then there's Chuck Schumer, the Senate's supposed bulldog, whose bark has rarely matched his bite. Schumer, a New Yorker through and through, has long been Wall Street's favorite son in Washington. His campaign coffers have been generously stuffed by hedge funds, banks, and real estate developers. And he's been more than willing to return the favor. While Biden warned in his address about the influence of the ultra-wealthy, Schumer has been a key player in ensuring they stay firmly in the driver's seat. Whether it's watering down financial regulations or looking the other way on tax loopholes, his tenure in leadership has been a masterclass in maintaining the status quo while putting on a progressive face for the cameras. And while we're pointing fingers, let's not forget the state-level Democrats, who often follow the same blueprint. In Michigan, for instance, you have figures like Mike Duggan and Curtis Hertel Jr., who both have cozied up to corporate interests while claiming to fight for the working class Michiganders. Duggan, Detroit's mayor, has spent years championing the revitalization projects that seem to benefit developers and investors more than the struggling communities he claims to represent. Under his leadership, gentrification has surged while public services for the city's poorest residents remain underfunded and neglected. Meanwhile, Hertel's political maneuvering has raised more than a few eyebrows. His transition from state senator to a cushy position at Greater Flint Health Coalition, secured with public funds, is a textbook example of the revolving door between politics and private sector profiteering. Even Governor Gretchen Whitmer, once hailed as a beacon of progressive leadership, has found herself walking the well worn path of courting the rich while leaving the working class on the back burner. Biden's speech warned about the power of the tech industrial complex. Yet Whitmer has been more than willing to welcome corporate giants with open arms, offering tax breaks and incentives while labor rights stagnate. Her administration's alliances with business interests have raised questions about whether the state's economic policies truly prioritize the people over the boardrooms. What Biden's farewell address conveniently left out is that the Democratic Party isn't just a passive observer in the rise of oligarchy. They've been an active participant. They didn't just inherit this system. They helped Republicans build it, brick by brick, donor by donor. From national powerhouses to state level operators, their fingerprints are all over the economic policies that have left millions of Americans disillusioned and struggling. The party's leadership speaks for fighting for the people, for democracy, but their actions paint a different picture. Dark money, super PACs, and corporate lobbying have become so ingrained in Democratic politics that it's hard to distinguish where the party ends and the donor class begins. Biden's call to ban members of Congress from stock trading was met with predictable applause. But let's not forget that his party has had years to push for such reforms and has consistently fallen short. Why? Because change isn't profitable.